This conference will now be recorded.
All right, good evening, everybody. This is the joint meeting of the Planning and Development Subcommittee and Town Council meeting, Monday, March 1st, 2021. It's now 6 p.m. Chairman's announcement. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30 Alpha, subsection 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Planning and Development Subcommittee is being conducted as remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to view this meeting while in progress may do so by watching by the remote information noted below on this agenda. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website at www.ci.southbridge.ma.us as soon as we are able. Roll call vote is required for all votes taken under this order. Agenda item number 1 is roll call. Councilor Dow?
Here.
Councilor Lazo?
Present.
Councilor Adams, present. Dee?
Present.
Catherine?
Here.
We have a quorum. We also have, there we go. We also have Councilor Daniel, Councilor Marchetti, Councilor Jovan, Mr. Rumsey, and the town manager present at this time. All right. Agenda item number 2, consider and accept planning and development meeting minutes of February 17th, 2020. I need a first and a second, please.
I'll make the motion to accept the minutes.
Okay. If I can grab a second from somebody.
Second.
All right, thank you. All right, any amendments to the meeting minutes for that evening? Dee, do you have any?
None, thank you. No.
Catherine, any?
No.
Okay, Councilor Lazo?
Wasn't present.
Okay, Councilor Dow?
No, thank
All
you.
right.
I wasn't present.
Yeah, I just wanted to see if anybody saw any errors. So the only thing that was identified to me, actually by Ms. Dean, was on agenda item number 3. The first sentence says, Ms. Dean notes the town applied for both grants, and I put in brackets LLRP. It should be LRRP. And on the second page, agenda item number 5, second line over, it says in application was approved, except, of course, it should be spelled EXCEPT instead of the way it is now. Again, Ms. Dean found that. So any other?
No.
All right. All those in favor, Dee?
Yes.
Councilor Lazo?
Abstain.
Councilor Dow?
Abstain.
Catherine?
Yes.
You'll abstain. You weren't at the last meeting, so you have to
Oh,
abstain.
sorry. Okay, abstain.
No,
Sorry.
that's okay. That's all right. So you'll abstain. Councilor Adams is a yes. All right. As amended, I should say. Agenda item number 3, discuss review pursuing Mass EVIP, which we need to spell out, grant for another public charging station and at what location, and entertain a motion to vote to recommend that council pursue applying for this grant. I'm not going to ask for a motion at this time. I guess we can just discuss it. So let me give you a little bit of history, if you don't mind, before we make any type of motion. Originally, this particular agenda item was scheduled for the 14th of January, which was canceled. I believe there was another town council meeting that had to take place or something, and we couldn't hold it there. We held it again we postponed it and moved it over to the 21st of January. We had discussed it. We made a motion to postpone it because we only had a half-hour meeting that evening, I believe it was. And we postponed it to February 2nd, where on February 2nd, we voted in favor of 3-0-0 for the a motion that took place, which located four charging stations, one at the municipality parking lot over on Elm Street behind the fire department, one on Main Street right in front of the library, one at the town hall to replace the older ones so we can split those up between the town hall and DPW, and last one was over by the gazebo on Crystal Street. Then on February 2nd, then on February 8th, it was agenda item number 16 to say, and it was voted there's much discussion and everybody has those minutes to send back to the P&D, and that vote was a 6-2-1 vote. We did have some time to discuss it further if we needed to. So we're kind of going on our fourth meeting on this. So at this point in time, I'm just going to kind of leave this up on, because I'm still recommend the 4 locations at this point in time, but I have no problem at all discussing this. So I'm going to leave this to whoever would like to talk first. Yeah, Dee Dee.
Just exactly what is the town council looking for? We gave them the 4 locations. We discussed it all. I don't know what further we can discuss at this point.
I think there was a bunch, and Councilor Lazo, I'll let you.
No, go ahead, go ahead. You're the chair. Go ahead, you can.
It was, you know what, it was just really, there was multiple locations that some councilors felt that it should be behind the library, one should be behind the library. Some councilors weren't in favor of being at the town hall at all. Some councilors, different views of it. There was other discussions on the vendor itself. Are we going to utilize a vendor for this? Which I think everybody was in favor. Most people were in favor of. So, Councilor Lazo, please.
Yeah, Dee Dee, one of the things that was discussed was we have actually 4 electric cars. I don't think anybody was against the concept of electric cars as much as when the town hall parking on the side of the building, they have the charger like right where the citizens go in. And the discussion was more of citizen friendly by catering to the majority of the people that need to park and go into the town hall, do business and leave, instead of in other words, we have handicap parking we have to make spaces for. And I think the electric one probably should have went around the corner in the back, so the citizens had a more convenient area to park, to do business with the town hall. Secondly, the one on Main Street, some other councilors spoke about it, but other locations were brought up, like Central Street parking lot, where the registry of motor vehicles is, where we own the parking lot. I want to apologize because I should have been at the meeting and I was taking my online license for my construction supervisor's license when this discussion happened. I don't know who made the decision of putting it where it is at town hall, but I know I'm an advocate of moving that where we cater to the majority and not the 4 cars. But I also think it's important to have the charging stations for the electric cars. But it kind of evolved in the Main Street parking is to be left open in front of the library because of the location of the banks, the library, and the post office as far as driving in and leaving. If there's a charging station, I'm under the impression you're not allowed to park there. I could be wrong, but that was basically the overall discussion.
Okay.
I kind of agree. I agree with what was discussed on that one. Yeah, go ahead, Dee Dee.
My question is now, Scott, when we had our meeting, we discussed electric wise as far as having to power the station. Does the parking lot down by the registry, would they have access to be able to set this up? Do we know?
Well, it's a town-owned building, whether you put it in front of the library, I mean, to my knowledge, yes. We have a town-owned building with power at it, with lighting in the parking lot.
Because I know they don't have the access.
We own the whole parking lot.
No, okay, Dee Dee, I know what, yeah, go ahead. I will say this, I just want to put on here that Ms. Dean is on here as well. So I will say this is one of the big thing were these 4 locations, the reason behind these 4 locations, and that was, they got with Mrs. Blakely or Miss Blakely of DPW, was that there was a local power source to be able to tie right on in there instead of having to dig up like Central Street parking lot. There was, you have the 5-year moratorium, don't dig up any of that old cement or that new cement and all that kind of stuff, which makes a lot of sense. But I think it had a lot to do with where was a close power source located? Hey, we know the town hall's already got it hooked up in there. We know the gazebo has that right over by the gazebo has it right there. The Main Street, I believe, has it there because I believe and Eric can tell me if I'm wrong. That's already been looked at, and then the municipality parking lot as well. So, and we have to provide the location. I just want to reiterate though, this is for applying for this grant, and yeah, so it's applying for the grant. So I'll let go ahead, Councilor Lazo.
Just a point of clarification. I'm not
Yep.
suggesting Central Street parking lot. I'm suggesting the other parking lot down by the registry of motor vehicles. Because it, you know, with the parking lot being used for the registry, it would be a simple run of an electrical line by the caboose. And whether you put it where the handicap parking is, go one more over. That's not the Central Street parking lot. Thank you.
Right, correct, absolutely. Catherine, I think you raised your hand.
No, I didn't raise my hand.
Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I'm in favor of this, putting electric car charging stations around town. Where you put them, it doesn't really matter to me. I mean, it's not a vote killer for me. I'll still support it wherever we go with them. I just think that the Main Street location, I don't understand that location because if you park your electric car somewhere, you're going to have it sitting there for quite a while for it to charge. I mean, that's the point of having these electric car charging stations. And so I wouldn't want to tie up a parking place downtown for an electric car charging station. So I suggested maybe we could put it in a library parking lot. Apparently the librarian doesn't want to put it there. So maybe we could put 2 down by the gazebo, or I don't know. But like I said, if we end up putting it on Main Street, I'll still support it. I just thought that was kind of an odd place for it.
I will say, thank you, Councilor Marquetti. I don't have a problem with it being in front of the library. I really don't. I think it offers something to people maybe coming into town saying, hey, we have something. It showcases our Main Street. And that, I guess, is in my view, and I'm not fine on everything here. In my view, I'm just thinking of planning for the future of the town. Even if, like, Councilor Lazo brought up, we have 4 in town, but we may have 1,000 in the state, and if they come to our town to go shopping or eat or something like that, or even go to the library because it's a pillar of our community, why not put it out there? The gazebo, I think, is a great location. I think, and I don't want to speak for Councilor Jovan, he brought up the Memorial Park. I think it was Dresser Memorial Park. I mean, that wouldn't be a bad location either. So I think there's a power source right down the area. But I will say, is there some work possibly being done in a few years? So I'd be very careful of that. But I just want to hear what everybody has. If there's other locations that we could think of. I mean, I don't want to do an overkill with 20 applications. I think that would put Mr. Rumsey in complete overtime and overspill. But maybe 4 or 5 throughout the town. Why not? Anyways, I'll just keep letting. Does anybody have any questions or comments they want to make on this? Councilor Jovan first, since I kind of threw your name out there.
No, that's all right. I'm going to defer to the vice chairman because we never really hear from him much. So I'll defer to Councilor Daniel first.
Yes, sir. Then since we don't hear from him very much, Councilor Daniels, go ahead. It's all yours.
My only concern about the Main Street spot is how does the reconstruction of Main Street affect this? If we're talking about putting this in and it won't happen until sometime in the summer or later, are we going to be in the street with this, or is this going to come over the sidewalk from the library? Where are we getting the power for this? And if we can't dig up the Central Street parking lot, which I agree with, we shouldn't be digging up Main Street either.
Okay, that's a valid point. Actually, very valid point. I don't know if Mr. Rumsey has any, or the town manager would like to chime in on that area.
Sure, I can. With regards to the library and Main Street, we would be putting it on a unit. The charging unit itself would be on a bollard, which would be on the edge of the road. It should not be affected by the Main Street construction. So it'll be between the sidewalk and the road itself.
So I'm just getting this clear that this would not affect that, the new construction.
Correct, because we're going to put it towards the eastern property line because of the road construction that essentially goes up to the existing crosswalk. So we'll be east of the crosswalk.
Right, okay. Councilor Daniel?
Well, then my concern is what's your anticipated power source? Where is your anticipated power source?
We're anticipating to utilize the library for the power source at this time.
Okay.
Anybody? Oh, Councilor Jovan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Oh, yeah, I'm not opposed to this grant application at all, as other councilors have stated. I did, and again, I missed the meeting as well, and I apologize, but I just think council allows us point that one at the town hall, we have limited parking as it is. We take up 2 spaces now. We had given the prior administration direction to move that town vehicle out of the way, and it never happened. So I'd like to see that one either moved or maybe DPW if we're going to power the town vehicles, or move it to the back of the building. I agree with that. I think this personally, I think the RMV, if we're going to have, we want people to come into town, that downtown corridor, the RMV, hopefully we will get that back into a regular operating mode. This would give people an opportunity if they come to town to be able to take part in that. Not only that, we have the host agreement with the marijuana facility. So I think that parking lot would be ideal for a station to be put in. One in front of the library, I'm perplexed why we can't put it behind the library. I really am. It's one spot. Again, destination for people to come to town, maybe to utilize the library and keep the Main Street corridor open for parking for banks, post office, whatever happens with the Southbridge Credit Union building down the road. It's for sale. So I fully support 4 locations. I have no problem with 2 of them. The Main Street one, I'd really like to see it behind the library to keep those parking spots open, and also consider the RMV parking lot because it is town owned, and given the work that's being done in that area. So that's my 2 cents for that. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Dean, I know Councilor Dow, you got your hand raised, but I believe Ms. Dean may be answering some of that.
I
ahead,
just
please.
wanted to chime in quickly. Thank you for allowing me to answer. I did just call Heather and ask, is there anything she needs us to advocate for regarding the library spot? And she said she would ask that you not choose in front of the library. In her opinion, east of the crosswalk is where the bus pulls in, and so it might interfere. So she said, if nothing else, please consult with her on the design first before going forward with the Main Street.
Okay. So I don't have a, thank you, Ms. Dean. Actually, Councilor Dow, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I think my suggested the gazebo behind the library. I'm not sure why we're gonna go by whatever saying they don't want it behind the library. That's not their decision. That's our decision to vote on it. I think this is the best spot for the town, behind the library, behind the fire department. And I agree with Council Lazo, the registry of motor vehicle parking lot. The town hall, it's move it behind that one behind the town, and I'm not sure why we cannot put one if he doesn't want it there on the side where the parking. Why wouldn't do it in front of the town hall on the street on Island Street? You know.
I'll try to ask Councilor Dow the most appropriate way on the first thing about the library. I think it's more of a recommendation than a telling us we cannot do it.
Sorry,
So-
Mr. Chair,
No,
but
no,
the
no
way
worries, no worries. I just want to make sure.
we don't want it behind the library, I'm not sure, at the end of the day, we're gonna see what the best for the town, not what some kind of, who want it, who doesn't want it, Thank you.
Right. No, I appreciate it. Thank you. Make a lot of sense. Councilor Lazo.
Yeah, first and foremost, as Councilor Marquetti said, and I agree, we are in favor of 4 charging stations. I think a little bit of common sense when we look at our town, and if I know that Peg has come up with some ideas with the Central Street parking lot and the center core, and when she gets on a roll with this stuff, I get excited because I see it as a destiny. So if people are going to come in and we become a destiny for whether it's a registry of motor vehicles, a business, a market, whatever it is, I thought that we would be user-friendly for the charging station and for those businesses. That's why I ruled out, in my mind, I think the one in front of the library is really a no-no. When you take a parking lot like behind the fire station and you put a charging station in, you're going to charge a car and you're in walking distance of doing things in the downtown core. If you go to the registry of motor vehicles, naturally, as Councilor Adams said, people are going to come from all over to use the registry. Not a bad location. And again, when it comes to power source, if there is a Southbridge building or structure or lighting, then the power source is there. So I think there's definitely, when you brought up the Central, the Main Street Park, there's a parking lot there, the gazebo, there's a lot of great ideas here. But I think, again, with the town hall, that one probably bothers me the most because of the use and creating a fluid movement with the town hall parking, because there's not much there. But I got to tell you, there's a lot of good locations, a lot of great ideas. My only question, Mr. Chairman,
Sir.
this grant goes forward, do we have to have the 4 locations decided?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then I will leave it for further discussion. I'm ready to weigh in on what I think, but I'd like to hear
So
somebody
can I-
else's ideas.
So, and before I go to Councilor Daniel real quick, Councilor Daniel, then to Catherine. So what I'm hearing right now, just tell me if I'm wrong, and this way Eric or the town manager can respond to it. I'm looking at, there's in favor of the RMV parking lot, pulling source from the RMV itself. We're looking at behind the library where you can pull the library source again, if that's the case. Crystal Street, which is right by the gazebo on the common, which nobody's talked about and said that they didn't want it there. And the municipality parking lot right behind the fire station on Elm and Main. And pulling the source there. Okay.
I think that's right, yeah.
I think we're okay with that. Okay.
Mhm.
So I'd ask Mr. Rumsey or the town manager or anybody else if there's another, is there an issue with those 4 locations before I go to Councilor Daniel or Catherine?
No, not at all. The only reason why we were considering Main Street versus behind the library was because the librarians requested that we not put a charging station back there because they have limited parking and their parking lot is often full. So they did not want to see a space at this time utilized solely for electric vehicle charging. So, the nice thing about this program is that it's going to come around again. So at this point in time, if you decide not to go with Main Street and not go with behind the library either, in the future, maybe there's expanded parking at the library, we can look at putting one in at that time.
How many parking spots is over behind the library?
Off the top of my head, I'd like to say maybe 20 or so.
Is that all you have, Mr. Rumsey?
No, the RMV lot is, I think that's a fantastic idea. I'm all for it. If, if that's where you all think we should put a charging station, absolutely, let's go for it. As far as removing the station from the town hall, we had already spoken in the past about moving one of the current stations behind the town hall for the town vehicle, and the other, to DPW, let's say, for the purposes of in the future charging a vehicle for DPW. That obviously we don't have a vehicle at this time, so it does not necessarily even need to be installed. We can put it in storage if necessary. As of right now, we own the unit, and deciding to not put a unit back at town hall really doesn't hurt us, I don't think. I would say the only thing that it does potentially do is it makes the town less future-proof, the town hall parking less future-proof. However, Edwards Block parking lot is not that far away. So maybe you might want to say put, instead of one charging station, which would be for 2 cars at the Edwards Block, maybe you do 2 charging stations for 4 cars.
Okay.
The budget that we're allotted through the state, which is $50,000 per property. Running some numbers with Massachusetts company who does sales and installation of charging stations. It looked like they believe that $50,000 would be able to get us all of those units on per property, so we could absolutely do that.
Yeah, so it's up to $50,000 per unit, right?
It's $50,000 per property for the level 2 chargers. For the for the DC fast chargers, it is up to $50,000. I'm sorry, it's a $50,000 grant. However, in speaking with this company, they told us that the out-of-pocket for the town would be between $10,000 and $20,000, and so I figured that was a long shot. So first of all, and second of all, he said there are DC fast chargers in the area, and we would likely not get that grant because the state is looking for deficiencies. They're only installing potentially like 20 to 30 of these throughout the entirety of the state of these fast chargers. So they're looking for areas where they simply do not exist. And I believe there's several of them that were put in Sturbridge on Route 20 or off of Route 20. So we went back and said, what can we use? What's going to be more readily utilized by the people who are coming into town with electric vehicles, and who are residents of town with electric vehicles, and that's the level 2 charger, which is not quite as fast, but it'll do a pretty decent job of charging most vehicles.
Okay. Councilor Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I'm piggybacking on the other councils that have spoken. I agree with the locations that you enumerated. I think that they're appropriate. I think that at some point in time, it seems that we should ask the town manager to look into moving the charging stations from where they are now at the town hall to other places. But that's something that can be done in the future. That doesn't have to be done tomorrow. But we should probably look into that so that we open up those spaces for the public, because it does get crowded there. On a different note, on page 2 of the background material that we were given, it talks about costs not covered. So we've got a pretty good sense as to what's covered. What are anticipated expenses that we might have to deal with that are not covered in terms of the installation and working up these spaces? because I would be concerned that it would be, potentially cost prohibitive if it's, 4 stations and it's a lot of digging that we need to do to get electricity to where the spots are and that sort of thing.
That's a good point, Mr. Rumsey. I think I can answer some of that, but I'd rather the experts do that. I sound more intelligent than me.
Certainly. So the costs for installation are covered under the grant. And for a starting number for a unit, which is we're proposing to utilize dual head units. So it's 1 unit for 2 parking spaces. The unit would be covered under the grant. The payment system would be covered under the grant. The installation would be covered under the grant. For example, for the Edwards Block parking lot and the gazebo area, we're looking at bollard mounts. Those would not be covered. I've priced bollards in the past. They run about $200 a piece. So yes, there's minimal costs to the town for what is not covered under this grant. But the overall, amounts are, the vast majority is covered.
I just throw it in here. I know the town manager has some experience behind this as well, and we've had a lot of discussion on this, including with Mr. Rumsey and Ms. Dean, was, one of the areas while the grant application was being sent up, that we would look at the possible vendor sources down the road to be able to pay for the, obviously the electricity use and the maintenance on them and all that kind of stuff down the road that would be paid by the user. That'd be part of the software program that would be included in there, and they would pay for that. I believe Mr. McCall had even mentioned at one point you can add a charge to it if it's a 2-hour charging limit and then they go 4 hours. There could be a charge per hour after the end of the initial charge. So, and I could be wrong. I don't want to speak on your behalf, but just wanted to put that out there as well. So, and one other thing I want to note before I go to Catherine or the town manager was that a lot of these people can find these charging stations right on their phones. So we can actually have that set up where they can find those or utilize an application to find those locations. Catherine?
Yeah, I agreed with 3 of the spots, but if the library is, not the ideal place, has anyone considered Everett Street on the side of the post office area, since that's so close to Main Street?
Oh, nobody's thought about that. Go ahead, Councilor Lazo.
I don't think that's a bad idea. The only question is, where's the power source? Does the town have to own the property for the power source?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
If anybody can answer that one. Councilor Marquetti? I got you, Gus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I think your 3 suggestions are the best ones. I've been to the library in the summertime, and I think there's plenty of parking back there, so I don't know what the issue is. And I would think that if it's full, then people will find, be able to park. I've parked in the street before. I've parked in the bank at night when something's going on there. So I don't see a problem with behind the library. I like Elm Street, RMV, behind the library and the gazebo. And your suggestion to move one of the chargers from the town hall into the back is a good suggestion. And then leave the other one there, so at least there's one there. I wouldn't move it to the DPW, not yet anyway. I don't see that they need it over there. But anyway, I like the idea. I think that if it costs us money to install, so be it, because we have to get, the price of climate change. What is the price of climate change? We might as well start doing something now. And this would encourage people to buy electric cars, which I think is a good idea. General Motors is going to start building electric cars. So we really want to do everything we can to get on the right side of history here. So I think we should go with your suggestion. I'm all for it. and let's move forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all.
I apologize to Catherine real quick. Did you have anything else you wanted to say? I just didn't mean to cut you off like that.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. No, I don't have anything further.
Okay. Counselor Steves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First off, sorry I showed up at 6:30. I wrote it in my notes that it was starting at 6:30, not 6. So you may have already addressed this question, but I noticed reading through the documentation, one thing that kind of jumped out at me is that if we're putting these all in 4 separate locations, it looks like, if I'm reading it correctly, that we have to make them all handicap accessible. Can we afford to do that?
Ms. Rumsey?
Yes, so we would have to, in effect, yes, we are making them handicap accessible. However, the specs that they have for handicap accessibility is nowhere near the requirements for an actual ADA handicap space. So the long and short of it is, yes, we do have to make them handicap accessible. So we are potentially, like at the library, let's say we put a single unit there, we're looking at maybe taking up 2 spaces for 1 unit. Crystal Street, the Edwards block and the RMV lot, I don't think we have any issues there. There's a lot of spaces that can be utilized for this purpose. So for example, if you did 2 units at the Edwards block, we're potentially looking at 3 parking spaces.
Okay. And if we're, I guess, I take it we've decided not to put one on the street itself, because I think that would be the biggest threat, is having an access from like a sidewalk to a handicap space on the street. I wouldn't want to see somebody rolling their handicapped, their wheelchair down the street to get to their electric vehicle. That would be kind of dangerous. That's kind of what jumped into my mind. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Main Street is basically off the table at this point, I think.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Counselor Lazo.
Okay, so just listening to what everybody's saying, if the registry parking lot, the Edwards block parking lot, the gazebo, and we move the town hall one to the back, I know nobody has brought up the schools, and I know the middle high school has a big auditorium, and I don't know if you would utilize a McMahon Field or the old high school. There were a lot of parking areas. I mean, I keep focusing, I'm on kind of the downtown area for the walking. You can charge your car and walk. But I know that there are other parking spaces around at the schools that are larger parking lots. I am definitely not in favor of putting them on the street. That's, to me, I think, it's more convenient and handicap accessible when you get into a parking lot area.
And I will, and Counselor Dow, I just saw you. Maybe Eric or Ms. Rumsey can answer this. If I'm not mistaken, these type of grants come around annually?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so maybe in the future years, we can have a little bit more time and we can figure out exactly other locations, especially with the kids driving too as well. You never know what they're gonna get out of that. So I have no, and I actually don't have a problem on the Main Street, 1 or 2 down the road, because I think it's just gonna attract people to the downtown area, especially if we are able to open up some restaurants as well. So just wanted to make that note. Counselor Dow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To you, I agree with Councilor Marquardt. Gazebo behind the library, behind the fire department, registry of motor vehicle, and move 1 charger on town hall behind the town hall. Thank you.
Okay. You want me to read off a motion, since it sounds like there's unless somebody else has an idea? Mr. Town Manager. Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
The only comment I would add on all of this about the locations is, my experience dealing with a lot of these, people don't just show up to go in necessarily and drop off a piece of paper at your town hall and say, oh, there's a charging station, I'll pull over and charge. As was pointed out by, I think, Councilor Marquardt and others, it takes a while to charge these vehicles, on average about 2 hours. So anybody who's coming in to the town and looking to charge it is probably looking to leave it for a period of time. And more often than not, if we go with a system that is on a national network, they'll find that, as you said, on the phone. So it's a destination. They'll look for that spot. So if we don't have it right on the main street, if we have it off street, they'll find that. And then they've got to kill 2 hours. So that gives them the opportunity to go to a restaurant or a bank or something else. So I would be inclined to agree with a lot of the people that have spoken that, you know, saving on-street parking for people that are just pulling up to do quick trips is probably better use of those spaces, where if we could find some, what I would say off-street, but more like behind the fire station or the central parking area, to put some of these, that may be better suited where somebody's going to leave their car for 2 hours to get the charge. The only other time people would be leaving their car is overnight, and you will get that. You will get people that will come to your public facilities at night and leave them overnight to charge, and that's where we wound up using those parking fees to dissuade people that would forget to come get them at 8 o'clock. We wouldn't want them to tie up spaces, but that's just some additional background information I thought you might.
Thank you, Town Manager. Councilor Lazo, did you have your hand raised again?
I was gonna make a motion on the 4 sites that have been recommended, Mr. Chairman, if you're ready.
Would you like me to read it?
Councilor Adams, can I interject real quick? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Mr.
Ramsey, I'm
to
sorry.
cut you off, Councilor Lazo. In regards to the town hall, the current charging stations we have we are unable to charge anything for people to utilize those spaces. So I believe Councilor Marchetti said he would like to see one removed to the back of the building for the town vehicle, leaving one for the public. However, can I make a suggestion, if that's what you would like to do, that we put the grant in to replace that with a new unit so that it would be a charge per use to charge your vehicle, rather than a free, or what they call a dumb charger, which is what we have now.
So are you recommending to move it from the side of the town hall to the back?
I was recommending taking one of them, yes, from the side of the building to the back for the purposes of charging the town vehicle. So it would not take up a space there on the side of the building.
But this
Okay,
isn't
all right.
that's not part of the discussion.
You're gonna take one. Are there 2 there?
Yes, there are 2 there.
What I'm saying is to remove charging stations on that side completely. I mean, you have people going in the town hall, you know, whether they be the inspections, the taxpayer, you know, and it's just, that's where everybody parks. I'm talking about removing both of them. I didn't know there was 2 there, to be honest with you. I thought there was just 1 station. And that's why I didn't want to cut the baby in half. I want to move the baby completely.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Lazo. Councilor Dow, go
Thank
ahead,
you,
please.
Mr. Can I make a motion to agree on a gazebo, library, behind the fire station, and the registered motor vehicle parking lot, and we'll leave the 2 at the town hall for further discussion? I don't think we need to discuss that for the grant to move on.
No, I actually don't think so either. I think it just needs to do the application process. We can talk about the vendors as we move forward through the application process as well. I think that's something that they'd be researching anyways during that period of time before hopefully we get those 4 locations and accept that grant. Then we have another thing to accept the grant, and then how are we going to go ahead and get this paid for on a daily basis? Yes, sir.
So the grant has nothing to do with the town charges being moved. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, has nothing to do with them at all. But I think it was brought up earlier, just Councilor Lazo, that if we do that and keep that 1 there, then let's get one, we can put a vendor on there and upgrade it, you know?
I second Mr. Dow's motion on the 4 locations for the grant.
So how about if I read this off just to make sure it's right for the town council down the road? Recommend that council pursue applying for the Massachusetts Electric Vehicle Incentive Program, MASV-EVIP, grant for public charging stations to be located at the municipality parking lot behind the fire station, got to take that out of there, the town common on Crystal Street, the RMV on La Rochelle Street, And the library, and I don't know the street, but it's where that parking lot's right there. Just got to throw the location. Behind the library.
Foster.
Foster, thank you. On
Rochelle
Foster
Way
Street.
here.
Off of Foster Street, not on
off of
Foster Street, off, yeah, the parking lot.
Okay, off of Foster. I don't know exactly what they needed for the grant. That's the motion. So I need a first and a second. Is that okay?
Yep.
All right, let's get a first and a second, and then we'll discuss anything else. And
You already had a first and a second. You just have to.
nobody read a motion off. All right, okay. Council Lazo, I think it was Dow first that made the motion, Lazo seconded. Any discussion on this at all, on the motion? Any further discussion? Very well. Dee Dee,
Yes.
Catherine,
Yes.
Councilor Lazo,
Yes.
Councilor Dow,
Yes.
Councilor Adams, yes, 5-0 favor of. All right, very well, thank you. And I do believe that we'll be discussing the vendor in the near future and also what to do with the town hall parking lot situation. All right,
Councilor
agenda item
Adams.
number 4.
Councilor
What's
Adams,
that?
could I just have a clarification there?
Yes, sir.
When we're talking about the library's address is Main Street, but we're talking about the parking lot behind the library, which is off of
That's-
Foster, but I just want to make sure we have that clear.
Very well, it is clear. I read that off behind the library and
Okay.
off of Foster, yeah. Perfect.
Well, the library's address is actually Main Street. So that's why I just wanted a
Right.
clarification on it.
I'll get that motion and specific wording to Councilor Jovan.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor, yes, sir. Councilor Lazo, you had
No,
something?
I was just gonna say, I agree with Mike. Either way, it's gotta be a Main Street address on the application.
Okay. Well, it just says location, so I don't know if it's
Library
specific on
parking
per
lot.
address. Got it. Okay, I think we're set. Thank you. Agenda item number 4, discuss, review the proposed home rule legislation for additional liquor licenses and entertain a motion to vote to recommend to council. First and second on that one.
Motion move.
All right, second.
I'll second it.
All right, thank you, Dee Dee. All right, let me go into my history. Apologize. There. So I just want to, before I let the town
Mr.
manager
Chairman?
go on. Yes,
I'd like to recuse myself. I'm a person in town that has a liquor license, so I think I feel like I'd be in conflict and discussion. So I'm just gonna
Very well.
recuse myself. Thank you.
So
Thank
I
you,
mean,
Councilor Lazo.
I gotta do the same thing then. I don't know if you wanna have my motion moved.
Yeah, you know what? We would have to remove your motion.
Do you need
Okay.
somebody to step in there, Dave?
No, we have the quorum. We have a quorum.
Even without the two of them? Oh, yeah, you with Chris,
Yeah.
well, yeah, you do. Okay.
So I'm just going to ask if Catherine, would you like to make that second?
So I'll
I'm
second.
sorry. You have to, you know what, Dee Dee, you're the second. Catherine, you'd be the first. I'll put that as the paperwork.
Okay.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to go over a little quick history on this. September 12th, 2019, Liquor Board wrote the town council a letter in favor of restaurant licenses, to increase the restaurant licenses in the town. They're recommending that we get rid of the quota system vote, which we cannot do after further investigation. November 19th, 2009, P&D held a meeting, and we have the minutes for that for the P&D meeting. And December 10th, 2019, there was a note on, I believe it was new business or something like that, where just a follow up with the town manager at the time. He had no follow up on that. September, October, let's see here. September and October, I believe the new town manager actually brought it up to myself one time, and I'm sure some other councilors, about bringing in some new restaurant licenses. November 5th, 2020, town manager sent a letter to the town council, memorandum support. And I do know between the both of us, we've talked to both Senator Batman and Representative Durant, and both are in favor to support us, support the town if we choose to do so. I will turn this over to the town manager if you would like to speak on this behalf, and or somebody else. Ms. Dean. Go ahead, Mr. Town Manager, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the reasons that you folks brought me in, and one of the things that I was hoping to do, is help you with economic development. And we're looking at a lot of long-term things for the town, such as the overlays and working on some of our infrastructure. I view what we're looking here tonight is maybe one of the easier, more immediate things that we can do to help with economic development. When I first got here, for example, people said, if you want to, we have 1, 2, maybe sit-down restaurants that came to mind when most people said, when you're staying at the hotels, here's where you can go. But more often than not, people said to me, well, you can go to Sturbridge, or you can go over to Charlton, you can check out these other things. And I thought to myself, well, we rely a lot on local receipts, as many communities do. Where are all of our tax dollars going in terms of meals tax and things? It did come to my attention that there was an economic development plan that was done back in 2016, and they did a retail assessment, and they looked at Southbridge, and they drew up a radius 3 miles out, 5 miles out, and 10 miles out. They did a survey of the people in those different geographic locations, and they determined that there was a distinct difference between what was going on within the 3 miles closest to Southbridge versus the 5 and the 10 miles out. That as you encompass Sturbridge and the other communities, people didn't leave those communities to go for certain retail, especially restaurants. But when you looked at that 3 mile radius right around the center of Southbridge, a lot of people did leave. And we're losing, according to that 2016 report, almost 50% of the sit-down dining dollars. And the assessment itself, the report, when it comes down to it, it indicated that Southbridge could really benefit for an increase of sit-down restaurant establishments. And I'm happy to send that back around. I did come across it doing some research. That I think, combined with the work we're doing with these overlay districts, we're doing the infrastructure, we're making our downtown more appealing to people that want to invest. We're looking at the opportunity to have retail, residential in some of these same areas. Let's increase the opportunity for people to come in and open a small restaurant, and also have the ability to serve alcohol at those places, because those tend to be some of the places people will come and spend their dollars. Not to take away from any of the establishments we already have. We have a lot of establishments here in town. I've tried many of them. But many of the liquor licenses that we have currently fall more along the lines of what I'd consider a tavern of sorts. It's not what one might think of an upscale casual restaurant. Again, not to take away from them, but we have certain fraternal organizations. We have other things that identify themselves more as a traditional bar or restaurant. When I talked to the ABCC, they talked about classifying some of our liquor licenses here in town, that some would be more of that traditional function, but then open up some others to dining experiences. So we could have fast casual that might have a liquor license, and we could have traditional sit down. And I think you'll find that there are people that would want to take that opportunity, especially as the economy is starting to pick up and people are going to go back out. We might have existing restaurants in town that may want to take advantage of this and add that to supplement the income they're already generating, especially those who've survived the pandemic, but also create a venue for new businesses to come in town. But either way, I think the town can benefit at the end of the day. When people start seeing other businesses move into town, they consider moving into town, and it can be a snowball effect. But I think having these additional licenses would be tools to help us entice people to come into town. And if they do and open those restaurants and they're successful, we would generate local receipts from those out-of-town diners, and that would help us to generate revenue going forward, as well as stimulate the economic development that we would like. And that's my pitch, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. McCall. Ms. Dean, did you have something?
I didn't necessarily, thank you for even asking. Eric and I were more the technical assistants on just helping draft the home rule legislation. I feel like the town manager's points are all exactly the reason why we would want to pursue this. And then I would just reinforce, or maybe Eric could reinforce, that all restaurants or all zoning requires that an establishment be a restaurant. We no longer will allow for a bar only. And so that will sort of, guarantee that any liquor license given out in the future does not go to a bar only.
And thank you to both of you for doing all that work as far as getting all this, the wording typed up as well, and the documents. All right, discussion. Councilor Steves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick couple of questions. One is, was there any particular reason why you chose to do 15 of these licenses? And why did you want to do the $5,000 extra fee?
So you know what? I'll take the hit on this whole part about the 15. I did speak to an individual, as the town manager last. We started off with 10, then we went to 12, and then we went to 15. And said, why not? Ask for the world. Because when I talked to Ralph, who is the executive director of the ABCC, he says, aim high, expect low. And he said, because they can go ahead and amend it on us. So we're like, let's be careful. We want to get as many as we can. But I had a nice conversation today with actually Representative Durant, because I had some questions on rule number 10 of the legislation. And he said, look, you could always come back for more if you fill these. And he said, what we see on average is about 7. And to be honest with you, besides the 7 references that were provided by the ABCC to us, they were averaging 5, 6 requests per request. And sometimes they're a little different with wine and malt and all that kind of stuff. So, but that was the average. And I was going to say that the 15, I would recommend to the subcommittee, maybe knock that down to 7 this evening instead of 15. Because then they're going to, you don't want more questions being raised when you don't really have to. So I'll take the hit on that number 15. Okay. So, and as far as the economic side, I would sit there and Ms. Dean could probably answer this a lot better than I can, but I will say, as part of the redevelopment authority in the past, and I know Councilor Marchetti as well, they really needed a lot of help and love in the future to help support the town and their abilities and their authorities. And this $5,000 per could help provide seed money instead of coming out of our operational budget or budgeting for the future. And I think that's where it came in. I will also say this, it's a lot of the same examples because this is really pretty boilerplate based on some of these other towns. What I saw was there was $5,000 on average, and they were going to economic development. So where we don't really per se need economic development planning area, we need the redevelopment authority to be able to move forward. And it kind of piggybacks off of, getting this individual in to consult the redevelopment authority and educate the staff as well. Mm-hmm. Hopefully I can answer your question. Ms. Dean probably better than I. Thank you.
I just wanted to supplement the response. The other advantage to the redevelopment authority is that they have those procurement exemptions. So, if they're given money, they can use a strategy when they're spending that the town could not. And that's part of why we want the redevelopment. That's, part of, we want to all learn their powers to see them take advantage of those.
Okay, that certainly makes sense. How does how much is the current cost for a liquor license in town? I know a lot of them end up getting passed from one owner to another, but when they actually come from the town, what do we charge?
Well, it's really, we don't have anything that really comes from the town per se, but as far as a permit fee, yes, it's $1,000 for that permit fee. And they pay that annually, and this past year, it was introduced where we waived that $1,000.
Right, yeah, I remember that, okay.
So I think it was like $19,000 in total that we waived.
Okay, thanks.
Any questions? Any more discussion on this? Dee Dee?
Okay, my question is, people currently holding liquor licenses, when they sell their business, they're selling the license as well, correct? Say I own a
Partly,
business in
yes,
town.
but it is transferred. It has to be transferred over by the liquor license, and ultimately, if I'm not mistaken, it'd be approved by the ABCC.
Okay, but now, when you're selling your business with a liquor license, isn't that making the business, somebody may want to buy it more because of the fact they've got that license already there? Are we going to
Well,
be taking away from the profit of the person who's selling their business? Did I explain that right?
no, I understand. It's an argument to have it. That's something I think we discuss as well, is how would we go about doing this? And yeah, it would probably take away, in a sense, from those individuals who paid $300,000 for a piece of property that had the license on it, and they got it transferred over. And yeah, and where the town is now in control of 7 licenses possibly, and being able to do it at $6,000 total, and then $1,000 permitting fee each year, where they can start off. But I just want to make a comment that I think, based on the Excel spreadsheet that we see here that we received today, and it's all based on population of the town, in a lot of ways, we painted ourselves into a corner by looking at more of it. It was a tavern sense instead of a full-blown restaurant. And now we don't have any license to provide unless you buy it for maybe the property value of that building, and getting all the transfer fees taken care of and all that kind of stuff, get approval.
I just want to know how somehow we're going to take care of the people who have them now, who have businesses, and that's their way of selling their piece of property and making a profit. I just don't know how we can fix that.
Mr. Town Manager?
I don't know if this would exactly answer it, but they'll always have that license, and if there's a demand, more often than not, you see somebody comes in because they want to take over that existing location. And my guess would be, for some of these existing locations, people would be taking it for the operation that it currently has. If it's functioning as, let's say, a sports bar or a tavern, that's the type of business they would want. I doubt someone would take a highly successful operation that's, let's say, a sports bar, and want to turn it into a small bistro or something like that. And I think if you did have that demand for people wanting to come in, you would have seen maybe someone entertain those type of offers to the existing license holders, and you may have seen that type of transfer. I haven't been here long enough to know whether we've had that level of inquiry. I do know, speaking with Mr. Rumsey, from time to time, we do have people that come and ask, do we have additional licenses, full alcohol, because they are interested in coming in to open up some type of fast casual or sit down dining. And we have to tell them at this point, no. They're always welcome to go talk to any of these existing license holders, whether they do or not, or whether there's been that opportunity, I don't know. But there's obviously some level of interest, and if there's no movement on that side, our only other option is to go this avenue and get additional licenses. And if it becomes a point in time where people start paying more attention, those licenses that are currently out there are going to retain their value, because people would want to utilize those either as a bar or to turn them into a restaurant. So I ultimately see it as there are no real losers here. I think we can only all gain from the experience that we bring in new businesses, we create value for those licenses, and so nothing's lost on the other side. And I know we do have some people that are watching that are license holders, and I don't, like you, I'm not looking to devalue the license that those other people have, and that's why we talked about maybe looking at how we classify, but I don't think we should preclude someone who's got a traditional bar operation, if they want to turn that into a sit-down restaurant, I don't think we should prohibit that. And that would allow them to carry over their value.
Thank you, Dee Dee. Is that all yet?
Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Lazo.
Yeah, I don't want to talk to the actual issue of the going for these licenses, but the thing is, I think we need to step back and maybe get a little background in history. If you look at the licenses we have, they're not tavern licenses. When Florence Chandler made us all put in kitchens because we had common victualers license, which was a restaurant license. So what ended up happening a few years ago, we did this destination licenses, and we went and got extra licenses for the town of Southbridge to expand the economic development. But when you talk about selling a full license, that has more value than a destination license. Destination licenses that we were granted by the state and the ABC were never transferred, and most of them are gone and out of business. Just for an example, when you say what's the value of a license, the one establishment purchased one for 80,000. Another establishment purchased it for 5,000. So when you ask the question, what is the value of the license? It's whatever you can get. And you're not supposed to sell the license. If I can say Mr. Larochelle is correct, you are selling the business. And with that goes the asset of the license. But as far as classification, years ago, back in the 80s, we reclassified and got rid of seasonal licenses. We gave them all option of full licenses, and they were all flipped from seasonal to full. And so we, as you say, categorized all license for common vics. They technically were all restaurant licenses. They have a higher value. A tavern license, as you say, is a bar room. Southbridge had, oh God, I want to say somewhere upwards towards 45 licenses at one time in the 80s. And since then, it has dwindled down miserably. And I do think that there was a quota that you only could have so many licenses based off your population. I don't know if that has changed. But again, when you're talking about licenses and value, that's something that, again, Dee Dee, you ask a valid question. But the history is that we've always been a diner town and never been a restaurant town. And for whatever reason, we still have some good restaurants in town, but it seems that even the restaurants like the Vienna made a great run at it and just went out of business. It just, economically, when you look at Southbridge, we're trying to change Southbridge and economically generate an economic engine. And without getting on to this agenda item, I just wanted to comment on history. We're not going to stop trying, but I hope that you're not disappointed in the final outcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Well, first of all, I don't think Councilor Lazo should be commenting at all on this. I mean, no disrespect, Councilor Lazo, but you did recuse yourself, and that's how it should remain. I mean, no disrespect. Please don't take it that way. Second of all, right now the problem is that the bars can't open. That's the real problem right now. We need these bars open. Does anybody know what's going on with when are the bars going to be allowed to be open? That's one thing I'd like to know, because we really need to get on the governor to allow these bars to open. Second of all, whose decision was it that the money would go to the redevelopment authority? I'm just not sure they have the expertise yet to even handle that money. I'd like to see them come up to speed first if they're going to decide what to do with the money. I don't know. Like you said, Councilor Adams, I served on the redevelopment authority with you, but I don't think any of us had any, experience on buying and selling and things like that. So that's another thing that I'm kind of questioning whether we should turn that money directly over to them. I don't have a problem giving them some seed money. I think it should go through the council and not directly to them. It's just a thought. And finally, I'm looking at your license and permit fee here. was updated in 2013. I think it needs to be, I think it needs to be updated because as far as I'm concerned, some of these fees are not very high. I mean, I think they need to go up, in my own opinion. Was that the last time it was that these were adjusted? And I think they need to be readjusted.
So thank you, Counselor. What I'm gonna do is because the two counselors had recused themselves, and I understand there was a history lesson that was being provided. I think at this point in time, and normally if you look at the open meeting law, they actually have to remove themselves from the meeting themselves because they did recuse themselves. So that being said, I'm gonna leave it as that. I am going not to Counselor Dow and Counselor Lazo. I'm not gonna entertain anything, and I appreciate it out of respect. But I don't want this to have an issue down the road.
I'm not gonna discuss, Mr. Chair, just a question. If we remove ourselves as a council or as a member of the board, we still, as a citizen, as a public meeting, as a citizen, I think we have a right to speak.
No, and I think that should be said enough on that one. No, you can't.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me.
Councilor Lazo?
We are the only ones that can recuse ourselves, not you. Just understand that.
But you are, Councilor Lazo, you already did it. So I afforded you the opportunity to speak, but you already recused yourself. So that's it. Thank you. Ms. Dean.
I just wanted to comment to Councilor Marchetti's question about who put the money towards the redevelopment authority. As the continued effort towards trying to improve the redevelopment authority advocated for that. It was, as Councilor Adams said, this was boilerplate language about the money going towards economic development. And again, with the strategy of hiring this consultant over the next 3 months, part of the scope of their work is to be able to teach how to accept seed money so that they do have funds to, as again, take advantage of their procurement exemptions. And so, I understand if the town doesn't support that, but I thought that it could dovetail with our overall agenda.
Oh, that's fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dean. Thank you, Counselor. As far as the fees that you had brought up, that is the liquor board's responsibility to set those fees for. Any other discussion on this? I would recommend that we remove that 15 to 7 as a subcommittee instead of on the where it says home rule legislation. Under that whole paragraph, it has 4 sections to it, actually 5 sections. On the 3rd line, I'd recommend removing 15 and placing 7 in there. Does anybody have any problems with that whatsoever for the subcommittee?
No.
Dee Dee, Catherine?
No.
No.
All right, any other discussion on this at all? I do want to say that I did invite the liquor board to attend as well. So to be able to give us history on it. All right. So at this point in time, we do have the agenda. I'm sorry, we do have the motion. All those in favor, Dee Dee?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
Councilor Adams, yes. 3-0-2. I'm sorry, it's 3-0-0 since they accused themselves. Welcome back, Councilor Dow. All right, agenda item number 5, new business. All right, anybody? All right. Motion to adjourn, agenda item number 6.
I make the motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Councilor Dow, you second that?
Yes.
All those in favor, Councilor Lazo,
Yes.
Councilor Dow,
Yes.
Catherine,
Yes.
Dee Dee,
Yes.
and Councilor Adams, yes.
Yes.
Have a great night, everybody. Great discussion. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.